For Keegan Murray, the offensive end has always been natural to him, right? He knows I'm going to have good nights that end of the floor. This end of the floor probably has never gotten a lot of praise. And so to have a night like that against a marquee high-level opponent and you get a lot of, praise and adulation for what you did, that is going to really bode well, I think, for him going forward and something for us to watch his continued development.
A guy that's very interesting to talk about is Keegan Murray. He is the most interesting player on the Kings roster, in my opinion, in part because a lot of the other guys are known commodities, or at least the range of what they're going to be. Keegan Murray, to me, can be his upside is really high. I really like this guy. He's a shooter, although he has not been shooting so far. He's off to a rough start. He's shooting 39% from the field and 30% from three. That's below, what they were hoping for him. But here's what I like. Mike Brown is asking him to take more and more shots, and he's getting his threes up, just not hitting them right now. And maybe the adjustment to volume is part of why he's missing. Maybe he's more dependent on De'Aaron Fox. I think there were some numbers I was looking up about what an impact De'Aaron Fox has on him specifically. Creating that penetration and kicking out, that's his game, knocking down those kickouts. But what I like is he could be just a shooter who's an okay defender and plugs in some gaps, maybe grabs a rebound here or there. Last night, one of the stories was that he guarded Donovan Mitchell, did a great job of guarding him. So that's what stands out to me, is that this is a guy that seems committed to being more than just a shooter.
And the thing, you're 100% right. I'm glad we're going to start there, because when I was watching the game, and this has been something that, you want to see, how committed is he going to be to becoming just all-around player that affects the game in every way, more than just a guy that's judged on catch and shoot three-point shots. Yeah. Is he going to be able to get there? And to do that, you have to take on the challenge on the other end of the floor. You also have to do things offensively to add a handle and a ball screen offense to your game and a mid-range to your game if you really want to get there, right? And as the fourth pick in the draft, I think that's something that they should be able to expect of him. I don't necessarily think you take a guy that you think is just going to be a really good catch-and-shoot three-point player with the fourth pick in the draft. So they obviously have expectation for that. So let's start defensively. I agree. Saw it last night. Now, look, I see some nights where teams say, or not teams, people that watch it and react, right, and say, oh, did you see him last night? He was guarding such and such for X amount of minutes. And I watched the same game, and I'll be like, yeah, he was guarding him, didn't look thrilled about it.
Right.
He was given an assignment, and, whoever this particular player may be, I'm saying on a given night. Last night, Keegan Murray wanted that assignment. Yep. So he was given it, wanted it, and I'm watching him get low. Mitchell is so explosive when he comes off the ball screen, and he kind of throws the ball out in front of himself. And by the time he runs and gets it, he is separated 8 to 10 feet from that screen. And he goes right into that shot from the three-point line where he's elevating 30 inches when he jumps on a shot. Not a lot of guys jump that high. Mitchell gets all the way off the ground. So my point is, if you are late on that screen, or you're not willing to fight over that screen and really chase, you're not getting there to bother him. He was in a stance. He was low. He was in a crouch. He was affecting him with pressure, and then also anticipating the screen, getting over the screen. He was chasing him around off the ball screens. And he had multiple efforts on the same play when Mitchell would give it up and get it back on the same possession. These are all the kinds of things you look at and say, how intent is he tonight? How much does this mean to him? It meant a lot to Keegan Murray last night. That is a great sign of his development here early in his career. And I think the more praise he gets, and he'll hear about it today, and any feedback that he gets, he watches it in film, guess what that does, man? That's like you talk about throwing a carrot to you and the adrenaline you have to want to keep doing that. For Keegan Murray, the offensive end has always been natural to him, right? He knows I'm going to have good nights that end of the floor. This end of the floor probably has never gotten a lot of praise. And so to have a night like that against a marquee high-level opponent and you get a lot of, praise and adulation for what you did, that is going to really bode well, I think, for him going forward, and something for us to watch his continued development.
And Mike Brown got the defensive player of the game chain last night. It was his 400th win as a head coach. That detail courtesy of a fantastic blog, the Kings Herald, which I read their gamer last night and got some really fun little nuggets. But if it wouldn't gotten to Mike Brown, if it weren't for the 400th win, it would have definitely gone to Keegan Murray yesterday. He was phenomenal on defense, and like you said, it was a commitment. And here's what I love, Legs. He's been in a shooting slump all year. I think he's at like 16% from three or something over the last handful of games going into last night. I think while De'Aaron Fox is out, he was shooting like 15%. Last night he goes 5 of 8. And I always find this funny because conventional wisdom would say, all right, you have a tough defensive assignment. You have to fight through screens. You have to get down in a stance like you're saying. Your legs are going to be tired. You're going to be short. The opposite was true. It almost got him going. He started hot, missed a couple. The defense picked up even more, and then he found a rhythm later in the game. So to me, that's what's encouraging is you talk about being more than just a shooter. To be able to play defense against the other team's best player, who, by the way, is a nightmare guarding downhill, and then to also be a three-point shooter, that's an all-star. If you can replicate that over the course of a career, that's an all-star career.
No doubt. And look, I'm glad you went there. So you and I think before we even began all of these shows together, we talked about some of the guys I thought were spotlight guys. Like going in, these are guys that can tip the scale a little bit for teams because that's what I want to talk about. If this breaks, then this team has a chance, right, to reach their ceiling. Keegan Murray was one of the guys I mentioned, and I don't know if you remember the comp I used and said if he can get to this level, it was Chris Middleton. Now, people might say, wait, it's 4th pick in the draft. Is that high enough bar? Well, let me ask you a question. If I told Kings fans, if I said to you, Keegan Murray, after a dozen years in the league, will have a career scoring average of 17, average over 20 4 different times, shoot 46% from the field for his career, shoot just under 40% from the three-point line as a shooter. And by the way, Middleton averaged 4.2 rebounds for his career. He was over 6. I looked it up 3 times in his career. Never been at 6.9. That's where Keegan Murray is right now for the year. Now, I don't know if we'll end up there, but he's already right now this year rebounding at a clip higher than anything ever Chris Middleton did. So You might think when you hear the two names, you think, oh, Chris Middleton, he has been a very nice player in this league for a long time. But, man,
NBA
Keegan Murray was in the draft. Would you take what I just gave you? And guess what that would mean? If he turns into Chris Middleton over the next couple of years at like that level of consistent play as your third scorer with Fox and Sabonis, man, you've got a chance now, a real chance, particularly when some of these teams in the West, it's constantly revolving door with parts. They're always reinventing themselves, trying to find the next thing. If you can keep Fox, Sabonis, and he turns into a Chris Middleton clone. Now, I will say this, offensively, to be able to do that, he's going to have to improve his handle. He's going to have to be a little bit more aggressive and better at looking at mid-range shots because I think that's what separates Middleton from a lot of guys. He is a mid-range killer. 16 to 20 feet contested jump shots. He's 6'8". He can get it off. The Bucks don't win a championship without that element on their team. You need a guy that can answer the middle area of the floor and have a solution, particularly late in the clock. Go get one at 6'7", 6'8", pull up, shoot over the top, and make a tough shot. He doesn't really do that much in their offense yet, so let's see if he can add that. But I think if this guy ends up having a similar career the first 10, 12 years of his career as Chris Middleton's career has been, you're in pretty damn good shape in Sacramento.
Well, he's so young that, we can talk about layers. Like every year you add a little bit of a layer to it. So last year, he gets his feet wet in the NBA. This year, I think it's probably defense. I think that he probably needs to build the foundation there before anything else and then become a more confident shooter. We know that Mike Brown's wanting him to take a bunch of threes. So getting the volume up, having more confidence to get the quick trigger, and then being a competent and maybe even a go-to defensive player out on the perimeter. That would be the foundation I would look at this year. But you're talking about adding more of an off-the-dribble game, adding more of a mid-range game. And Chris Middleton can put his hip on you. He could play back to the basket and one dribble sidestep and get those up. Is that something you want to start seeing right now? If you're building a healthy process for this guy, because he's so young, is that something you start working on now? Or is that something that you need a foundation before you start to add that?
No, I think that's the kind of thing that you're constantly talking to him about and tweaking. He's working with the player development guys and adding that. And I think even last night in the first half of the game, I thought there were some times where he got his hands on the basketball and he didn't really explore at all what he might have. in terms of matchup or space when he caught it with one defender on that side of the floor. And because he was very programmed on what the next action was and what they were trying to do on that set. And look, I get it. He's a young player, and that's part of how you feel when you come into a team with some established players. It's hard to find those moments. Those are the things I think in film with the coaching staff and then with the player development guy working on your skill set, you can identify a couple more opportunities a half where, hey, right here, by the way, do you see this? You got this guard switched onto you or picked you up in transition and the ball went to you first. I'm cool. This is Mike Brown talking. I'm cool with you putting your back on that guy, and let's back down a little bit, and let's see if now you start reading the floor. I'm good with you trying to find an opportunity for yourself right there where you back him down, shoot a turnaround jumper over him, go into the baseline or get into the middle lane, maybe try to draw some contact. It's only a couple of times right now, a half, that maybe he had a little something more to explore there. Now, if he hasn't put in the daily work of like the handle and playing with your back to the basket where you're comfortable, then no, maybe he's not ready for that. But I think that is, the next step for him. And even if you just see small tastes of it on a given night, that's going to be something that's going to be interesting because now these conversations are taking place and he's starting to process those situations.
What I said earlier about teams, you have your best punch, but then how much versatility do you have? So a team overloads and it has the ability to shut you down. We talk about De'Aaron Fox. He's hard to shut down, but there are teams that maybe are designed to be able to do that. Domantas Sabonis gives you another counter punch there in that two-man game. But that's what you're talking about with Keegan Murray is right now you've got Malik Monk, off the bench who can give you some shot creation and different things. If Keegan Murray can become Chris Middleton, that's a whole nother wrinkle to your offense. So now a team overloads on De'Aaron Fox, overloads on Domantas Sabonis, and meanwhile now you've got one-on-one, or you've got Keegan Murray with the mismatch that you can go to and steadily get a diet of high-value shots. So that's what he represents when we talk about right now. They're looking to win a series. They're looking to build. But if they're looking to win a championship, he's probably, in my mind, part of a big three. I think they have a big two right now. Yeah. He would be the big three.
Yeah, and look, he's so young, and that might not be for a few years. You think about it. If he gets to the point where he's 23, 24 years old and starting to come into his own at that time, man, well, all right, you got a long way to go at that level. So it doesn't happen quickly, but I completely agree with you. Because I think they have a chance to develop not only like a third guy as their big three in Keegan Murray, it's because of the chemistry already with Fox and Sabonis. You'll have a big three that work great every night, and you get something that looks like Denver now. Not that, you don't have a Jokic, I get that. But my point is, with Jokic and Murray and then, even adding an Aaron Gordon or a Michael Porter Jr., take your pick. Either one of those two guys on a given night, they're so comfortable with each other. And that's where Keegan Murray has a chance to give them that, because I think the talent is there, the skill is there, and he has nights like last night where he's a two-way player at a really high level on both ends of the floor. Those are massive confidence builders for young players. And so keep an eye. Maybe he has these little spurts throughout the year where he puts together runs of 4 or 5 games that look like last night. Now I think we all look at the Kings a little bit differently what their ceiling is.
Quick housekeeping note. S. Sato reminds me, Sacramento has the defensive player of the game crown, not the chain, which I love, by the way. Fits so perfect for the Kings. They did that between that and the beam. They have some of the best little bits for their team. And by the way, some great fans, man. That place last night, you could tell that game meant a little something for them. Having Fox back, and that crowd was going nuts.
I got to comment on that. So when I was in the league, that was during a time, and the Kings were not very good. They had some down years during that time. And still, when you'd go to Sacramento as an opposing player, it was unlike literally any other arena in the league where fans would be like 10 deep surrounding the court during warmups when you're just shooting around, and I
like a college game.
It really was. And it's like there's just is that a home court advantage in that building. And when they're good, and it's very few places really, when you're watching the game on television, do you completely feel the energy in the building and what that's like. that's on a short list of places that give you that. So you're 100% right. They are all about that team. And they're not fair weather, man. They're there for them through good and bad, through a 6-0 run by the opponent. I played in some cities, 6-0 run to start the game. The Boo Birds were coming, So I played a couple places like that. That's not the case in Sacramento, man. They're going to give you the full 48 to try to get this thing together and pull out a win, and they're behind you the entire time.
We all silly like the mayor.